Let's read once again our main text that is in Daniel chapter 11. By the way, we're closing in to finishing this book. I have been praying about what we're going to be doing next. Okay, so I may not go through a book next time, but through a topic. But let's read Daniel 11, verse 2. Now I tell you the truth, 3 more kings will arise in Persia. And the 4th will be far richer than the others. By the power he gains through his riches, he will stir up everyone against the kingdom of Greece. Guys, notice the language and compare it to today. It says here that he will stir up everyone against the kingdom of Greece. That's actually gossip. That's actually rumors and word-monging that he's going to be doing. Then a warrior king will arise. He will rule a vast realm and do whatever he wants. But as soon as he is established, his kingdom will be broken up and divided to the 4 winds of heaven, but not to his descendants. It will not be the same kingdom that he ruled, because his kingdom will be uprooted and will go to others beside him. Again, that's Alexander the Great. After his death, without an heir, his kingdom went to his 4 generals. These are 4 dominant generals because there are more than 4 generals in the Grecian kingdom. The king of the south, which of course will be Egypt, the Ptolemies, will grow powerful, but one of his commanders will grow more powerful and will rule a kingdom greater than his. After some years, they will form an alliance, and the daughters of the king of the south will go to the king of the north to seal the agreement. The king of the north will be the Seleucids, okay? She will not retain power, and his strength will not endure. She will be given up together, and her entourage, her father, and the one who supported her during those times, in the place of the kings of the south. One from her family will rise up, come against the army, and enter the fortress of the king of the north. He will take action against them and triumph. He will take even their gods captive to Egypt, with their metal images and their precious articles of silver and gold. For some years, he will stay away from the king of the north, who will enter the kingdom of the king of the south, and then return to his own land. His sons will mobilize for war and assemble a large number of armed forces. They will advance, sweeping through like a flood, and will again wage war as far as his fortress. Infuriated, the king of the south will march out to fight the king of the north, who will raise a large army, but they will be handed over to his enemy. When the army is carried off, he will become arrogant and cause tens of thousands to fall, but he will not triumph. The king of the north will again raise a multitude larger than the first. After some years, he will advance with a great army and many supplies. In those times, many will rise up against the king of the south. Violent ones among your own people will assert themselves to fulfill a vision, but they will fail. Then the king of the north will come, build up a siege ramp, and capture a well-fortified city. The forces of the south will not stand, even their select troops will not be able to resist. The king of the north will come against him, will do whatever he wants, and no one can oppose him. He will establish himself in the beautiful land with total destruction in his hand. Now this is, the beautiful land will be the land of Israel. You will see here the tug of war between the north and the south, and that will continue between 100 to 150 years. He will resolve to come with a force, a strong kingdom, and will reach an agreement with him. He will give him a daughter in marriage to destroy it, but she will not stand with him or support him. Then he will turn his attention to the coast and islands and capture many. But the commander will put an end to his taunting. Instead, he will turn his taunts against him. He will turn his attention back to the fortresses of his own land, but he will stumble, fall, and be no more. In his place, one will arise who will send out a tax collector for the glory of the kingdom, but within a few days he will be broken, though not in anger or in battle. In his place, despised person will arise. Royal honors will not be given to him, but he will come during a time of peace and seize the kingdom by intrigue. Again, this is gossip again and rumor monging. It's amazing how in the end times this will be prevalent. A flood of forces will be swept away. Before him they will be broken, as well as the covenant prince. Now, the role of words. You have to be mindful of what comes out of your mouth. There's power in our words. And here, the word intrigue, and you can just simply translate gossip. It will play a major role. And I was telling you that we should understand our times. Because if we don't, we will fall victim. This morning, really the difficult part in teaching a passage like this, number one, history. Because for most, it's boring, okay? Because I'll mention to you. By the way, in high school, we have come across these terms. But in high school, we really don't know what it means. You know, the Ptolemies, the Seleucids, all of this. These are names, Alexander the Great. These are names that we know in history. When I was in high school, you mentioned Alexander the Great. He was a great hero, you know. We don't know how wicked he was. But we mentioned the pharaohs of Egypt. And again, we are in awe without understanding where it is going. All of these are going somewhere. And we were mentioning that the spirit of the times, treachery, strife, warfare, greed, hatred, destructiveness, assassinations, vengeance, vindictiveness. All of this are spirits of the times, which are once again true today. For a certain style of leadership to rule, there has to be a base, okay? You will notice that today, they are beginning to say that less Americans are conservative. Now, I really don't know where it's coming from. Do you know that majority of Congress, liberals and Democrats, majority of them are conservatives, not liberals? Even among the Democrats, we have what we call as, especially in the Midwest, we have what we call as blue dog Democrats. These are basically conservatives, but they don't like the conservatives, okay? Because they say the conservatives are pro-guns, pro-this, pro-that. Well, not really. They lack understanding, you know. Majority of our congressmen are still believers. But you will not find them communicating that faith because there's a president that we had years ago, the name is Bill Clinton. He popularized the notion that your faith has to be private. Everybody was enraged. Now it's one of the most popular view there is. What's happening here? It's called planting seed. When you plant a seed, it takes a time for it to take roots, to flourish and bear fruit. But if you are planting a tree, it will take a longer time. This is the same principle with the kingdom of God. The kingdom of God is like a seed, a mustard seed, planted until it becomes the biggest tree on earth where everyone can nest, all the birds of the air can nest. It takes time. In the Philippines, for example, when I was growing up as a child, it's unheard of that the homosexuals will be accepted in society as legitimate marital option. Now it's legit. What happened? There is this time that they are waiting for, okay? Watch this. What happened to the last cycle of elections that we had? What? The governors, what happened to the last cycle of election that we had? The Republicans lost massively. I mean, it's very quiet. Majority of the governors are still conservative Republicans. But we lost a lot of seats. You say, how in the world can that happen? when the presidency that we have right now, we don't know who is the president, so to speak, who is holding the strings. I mean, there are times this guy will be lost. We don't know where he is. How come, in spite of the bad policies, open borders, we are wasting billions of dollars, how did the Democrats manage to snatch away a lot of wins? It's called time. Yeah. They have known the formula. Don't publish, use the mass media, don't publish the embarrassments. Instead, whatever embarrassment, for example, if these are two feuding parties, whatever embarrassment he has, put it on her. And whatever accomplishments he has, put it on him. It has to be a lie, it has to be intrigue. And you plant that seed, I don't know who said this, you keep repeating a lie too many times, it becomes the truth. Who said that? Huh? No, not Axel. Who is that philosopher who said that? You guys should know this. You just keep repeating a lie, and it will become a truth to some. We have mastered that in our times. And so now, we are living in a time wherein the world, perhaps for the first time, is ready for the Antichrist. If the Antichrist comes in, look at the Middle East. It's looking desperately for peace. The moment somebody walks in and offers a false peace, everybody will bite. And all of this is in the scriptures. It's just a timing. Look, let's talk about 30 years ago. Can anybody really believe 30 years ago that same-sex marriage will be approved in the U.S.? I was already here 30 years ago. That's unknown now. Even Democrats will vomit at the idea of same-sex marriage. But right now, you don't talk about against it. Why? The time has come for the demons of homosexuality to show their faces. And they show it without shame. Ripe. When the time is ripe, we have enough votes for at least 2 decades in the Philippines to approve divorce. But it's not being approved because the culture denounces it. So in the meantime, what is acceptable is marriage nullification law. Now, marriage nullification law is very popular in the Philippines. If you have money, you can just simply pay somebody and you can have marriage. Most of the people who get their marriages nullified are actually people who are rich. And so what are they doing? They are coming to America, divorcing, which is not honored in the Philippines. It will be honored in the U.S., but in the Philippines. But there are so many of them already. These are rich and famous people in the Philippines. So what's that? They're planting seeds. They're planting seeds. And only a matter of time, we have more than enough of vote. It's not even an issue of vote. There is enough of vote in the Philippine legislation chamber to pass divorce. And the time is here, you see. It's just planting seed. And now for decades, and maybe you can say for centuries, the culture of immorality, the culture of lawlessness, the culture of anarchy, the culture of rebelliousness has been promoted as seeds. Now it is growing. It has grown. And not only has it grown, in the meantime, it has also corrupted churches and Christians. Why? Because while they are promoting their gospel, churches, we have diminished the teaching of the word of the Lord. My wife is in the way back here. But she went to church this morning and she was telling me, "Sweetheart, what church will I go to?" She said, I would like to go to the church where Eliza is attending. I said, "No, don't go there." I said, "I want you to go to our old church because it's practically dead." She said, "Why do you want me to go there?" I said, I want to know what happened. Because remember, she went to my old church in the Philippines. And she took pictures, and it is sad. It's very dismal because our pastor was very strict and disciplinarian. He'll be preaching, and my wife says, nobody is paying attention. And she said, close to me is a couple, and they're just talking all the time. The pastor will say, let's read the Bible, and they're not paying attention. They're just talking. And she said, I'm hurt by what I saw because that is not what our church was. So I told her, now, she was in Virginia Beach. I said, why don't you go and attend our old church? Because it was the biggest church in that place during my time when I was there. And the pastor fell into, how do you call this? Sexual solicitation from a minor. And involved, listen to this, involved with him on the same sting that the federal government launched, with him, listen, this is a pastor, with him are his deacons. Yeah. Think with me, 30 years ago, a pastor and his deacons on a sex solicitation adventure. So they were caught. The moment they were caught, the former senior pastor stood up in front of the congregation and say what most of us here know, the famous line of the ignorant and the undisciplined and those who have surrendered. The pastor said, let's not judge. Let's love one another. On bail, he came out, and the following Sunday preached. The guy was caught in a sexual solicitation sin with some deacons, and the following Sunday preached. And my wife took some pictures. She's not, the ones who know her there are dead. So she said, this is very dismal. Where in the world they go here? I said, because I want you to go there and I want to see. Why do I want to see? Because life is a laboratory to me. I look at things and you begin to see what's happening and its effect. Because a lot of people have been deceived that God is no longer alive, even though they say He's alive. The way we live, it is as if there is no God. You know, we live as if there are no consequences to our actions. But I'm telling you, I am a student of life. There are consequences. And no matter how ignorant people are and say, oh, it's nothing, it's love. Believe me, there are consequences. You are a blind student of stupidity if you say there are no consequences. There are consequences to every decision we make. And so when I sent my wife there, the congregation that I formerly handled was telling her, they're already old now. Oh, Sister Ann, when you and Pastor Jose comes here, don't stay in a hotel. We have a house, but we are old. We can no longer drive long. Just come to our church. I said, no, don't go to the church either. Why? Because I have studied the spirit of that congregation, and I understand it. My wife told me, why won't we stay in Virginia? Here's a church that loves you. She told me, we can stay here and make a family here. I said, Ann, you don't understand what's going on. I was discipling her during the time. I said, this is not what's going on. And she said, show me. I said, in time, because you cannot just explain these things. You have to understand the times. And I'm telling you right now, the time is ripe. The world is ready for the Antichrist. Are you following what I'm saying? If the world is ready for the Antichrist right now, which means the cup of God's wrath is filling up. And I really don't know why people can see this. It is very obvious to me. And we are being blindsided in some sections by saying, oh no, there's revival in this. There is no revival in the U.S. They can publish all the books they want. There is no revival in the U.S. What is happening is there is a revival of sin. Now, there will be a revival. Remember the last vision of Oral Roberts? The destruction that fell down on New York. It did not hit the ground. But the effect is global. We are feeling it right now. Can you imagine this? Hamas attacked Israel on October 7, and the world turned upside down. It's Israel that is actually attacking Gaza. The story is different. Why? Because the world is ripe with intrigue. It's Arab Springs, how did it happen? Intrigue. Basically, you're dealing with social media. You think everything that was published in those social media platforms are true? Of course no. You'll be foolish to say they are true. Of course no. But intrigue. You don't have to be telling the truth. All you need is to be able to upload something, and people are blind enough today to eat whatever it is that they want, that they see. How many of us even evaluate the food that we eat? That's what it is right now. And so this is what happened now, because I have to be strong in applications, less on history, but I have to mention history, okay? So basically, from what we read, this strong king, when he died, his kingdom was divided into four. And we saw this in the kingdom of Alexander the Great. Now, I am very interested in the two rival kingdoms, the Ptolemies of the south and the Seleucids of the north. Okay? Now, why am I very interested? The Bible talks about the kingdom of the north that will come on Israel. Now, again, most people will just simply look to Russia because it's far north. They say, Russia, the sound of Rosh, head, Rosh Hashanah, head of the year. So they make this sound say, Russia. Well, you can make anything out of it. By the way, Henry Kissinger is dead. There was a time people believe that Henry Kissinger is the Antichrist. They believe that Kennedy is the Antichrist. He's dead. Ronald Reagan is the Antichrist. He's also dead. All their Antichrists are dead. But Christ has not returned. So you know that people are just guessing. Okay? But I'm very interested in the north, because now even the north, you're talking about Turkey, Erdogan, declared opposition against the land, against the people of Israel. And these are the things that I'm following. You have to watch Iran, because it's the one that is coming from the east, but we'll have to go by the way of the north to attack the land in between. These are important events that are transpiring right before our eyes. Where is the U.S. going to be? Before, I don't know where it is going to be, but it's certainly with NATO. It's with the West. And U.S. perhaps is still very, very rich, resources-wise, armed-wise, but it is very, very weak. It's like a dragon with no head. You know, if I ask you right now, who is leading this country? If you say the president, then I don't know where you have been living for the last few years. The president doesn't lead. Somebody tried to lead this country by the name of Trump. Boy, they went against him. Because the spirit of anarchy is very rich in this country. And if we are not careful, that type of spirit will continue to enter even in our houses. What I want you to have is understanding of the times. I have been preaching that for years also. Now, this conflict between the Ptolemies and the Seleucids, the conflict took, it takes around 150 years until a guy named Antiochus Epiphanes IV came, which is the prototype of the Antichrist. And you look at the north, as I was explaining this morning, and you look at the south, they are always fighting for control. In between, sandwiched is the land of Israel, which at this point became very small, the land of Judah. Okay? So, the promised land is a land flowing with milk and honey. Now, I'll make a very simple application here concerning our faith life. The promised land flowing with milk and honey is the land of Israel. However, it is also called the land between, because the then known world, for you to conquer the south, which is Egypt, Arabia, and all of those places, for you to conquer that, you've got to go through the north. For the south, To conquer the east and the north, you've got to go to the land of Israel. This is a land flowing with milk and honey, chosen by God. Listen, chosen by God. I want you to be here, listen, in the middle of conflict and crisis. Look at that. God already said this, I did not call you because you're big, because you're rich, because you're powerful. Now I did not call you because you're small, you are poor, and you're not powerful. But I called you, I put you in the middle of the hottest place of conflict on the face of the earth. It is the center of intrigue. It is the center of war. It is the center of economic development. It is the center of everything. But boy, this is like a boiling water ready to erupt anytime. And God told his people, you are the apple of my eye. And I'm going to put you in the middle of conflict. Now think about that. And so now Christians are saying, well, if we love God, let's have peace, and well, I don't want conflict. This is where God is placing his body always. That's why Jesus said, I am not praying that you take them out of this world. What is this world? This is the world in rebellion against God. Now remember, this becomes the focal point of satanic activity. This is where Adam and Eve were. And God says, I want you to be in the middle of this rebellious. I mean, is there a spiritual revolution in Pluto? There is none. I mean, is there a spiritual revolution in Mars? No. In the moon? No. The center of conflict in the universe is in a little planet called Earth. Satan tried to grab this from Adam. The rebel kingdom, by the way, again, intrigue. People say the rebel kingdom is the church. No, we are not the rebel kingdom. The rebel kingdom is the kingdom of the devil. Because God did not surrender to him after he took it by force from Adam. He has to send his son, his ambassador, his regent. And so Jesus has taken back the kingdom from the hands of Satan. He defeated Satan in the temptation and on the cross. But what's happening is this is still the center of conflict. And Jesus said, I am not praying that you take them out of this world. So when you pray, God, take my life, the answer is no. But I am praying that you protect them. And critical in faith life of Israel is they should trust God for protection. God says, your enemy will come upon you one way, and they will flee 7 ways. Now, God understands this. God says, I put you in the middle of conflict, and the only way you can survive conflict is if you put your faith in me. That's why our faith life becomes important. Well, they did not keep their faith in God. Instead, they put their trust on Egypt. They put their trust in Damascus. They put their trust on other kings. And God was repulsed and said, well, you put your trust in Egypt, news will come, and Egypt will abandon you. News will come, and Damascus will abandon you. And this little nation, and God already said, you are weak, you are poor, you are not powerful. Okay? Put them in the middle of conflict and told them, if you don't believe me, if you don't love me, if you don't devote yourself to me, I will watch you get destroyed. Now, this is the apple of God's eye. I want you to see that because we have a false notion of what faith life is. We are in the middle of war. We have been recruited to join the army of God. We are the army of the Lord. And unless we know how to use our faith, the same thing. Look at Israel. This is still the center of every major conflict. Forget the Philippines, forget Africa, forget India, forget Nepal. It's Israel. Okay? It's Israel, the center. The apple of God's eye was placed in there. So don't be surprised when God calls us, he puts us in the middle of conflict. Yeah. We become like the Bible describes as sheep for the slaughter. Now, I am not saying that you enter into conflict, but that is the nature of spiritual warfare. And here we are. And a lot of Christians now just walk away. Hey, don't touch the LGBTQ. By the way, don't preach, don't use the word sin anymore. Use the word mistake. Use the word error. What is that? Oh, I don't want conflict. What you're saying is you don't want to be in the promised land. How many of you here wants the promise of God in your life fulfilled? Let me ask it again. How many of you here wants the promise of God in your life fulfilled? Let's summarize the promises in the nation of Israel. It's called the promised land. You have to be willing to be placed in the middle of conflict. That's where it is. You got great victories came from great battles. You are in the middle of conflict. And by the way, right now, the rapture view that is becoming very powerful. Now, I told you I believe in the rapture. I wish it happened yesterday already. But you know the most popular view of the rapture taking place right now is that there is no rapture. Yeah, it's becoming very popular. You know why? Because now the body of Christ is seeing right now, boy, we're in the middle of all of this. How come we are not being taken away? No, I still believe in the rapture. But God has really put us, His mark in the middle of these things. Why? Because we're supposed to be a light in the midst of darkness. You see, light in the midst. You are the lights of the earth. Nobody lights a lamp and hide it under the bed. That's what Jesus said. Nobody, and we are those lights. We are not supposed to be hidden under the bed. We are in the middle of darkness. So now, what's the use of being a salt if there is no saltiness? What's the use of being a light if there's no oil? You see, these are the pictures that we have been given. And here we see this. And so the conflict, I mean, they try marriage, you know. They try the Seleucids and those in the family of the Ptolemies. They will sit down, and the amazing thing is these are relatives now. They are mixed marriages. They will sit down and try to write a treaty. And while sitting down, okay, let's have no war. They know they are lying to each other. Have you ever talked to somebody and you know they are lying to you and you are willing to talk to them? I'll give you an example. Netanyahu said this. He said, I know the ceasefire will never work. How can you negotiate peace with the devil? But he has to sit down. Look at this. He sat down because U.S. is forcing him to sit down. He doesn't like to sit down. He likes to send his special forces, find the victims, and now even with all the stories about the atrocities against, I mean, young girls were being raped repeatedly. There's a report wherein some girls, they even destroyed their pelvic bones were shattered because of repeated rapes. And yet the world is trying to be blind about that. What is that? This is demonic. Why? Because, again, amazing to me that one of the headlines I read is, head of the Palestinians says, right now, terrorism is legal. And some ignorant folks will say, that's not right. You don't have to go to the Middle East. Stay in the U.S. To a certain degree, thievery becomes legal here already. I mean, how many people walk in Target, Walmart without paying, and they walk away saying goodbye? We'll come back tomorrow. Pastor Gino told me this story. He said he was in Target and said, this guy took a case of beer, put it in the cart, and wheeled away without paying. And Pastor Gino said, I told the manager, are you not going to do anything about it? He said, well, sir, it's not even $10,000. And he said, the guy walked out of Target, waved goodbye and said, we'll see you tomorrow. Now, tell me, is robbery legal? Yes and no. But when you don't prosecute, what's the use of the law? These are things that are happening. Now you say, wow, that's amazing. Well, guys, you know that my style of teaching, I try to apply it to where we live. What's the use of you telling your kids, if you do this, I'll do this, and you don't do anything? It becomes like the U.S. government. We become toothless tigers. Yeah. It becomes useless. What am I trying to show you? This is the spirit of the times. Okay? And so, the atrocities that Antiochus IV did, if you are living right now and you fast forward Antiochus IV, it's not going to happen. Oh, but the ground is being prepared. By the way, the ground that is being prepared right now is beginning to be more acceptable. Bestiality. The devil had already succeeded in same-sex marriage. It's acceptable now. You don't frown at it already. They are pushing right now, and it's very little news, pedophilia. And you know, by the way, what triggered the pushing of that? Epstein. Because of the involvement of our politicians, they're pushing it. Now they are pushing pedophilia, which means in the future, if this continues, forget child pornography, that will be acceptable. Oh, but you know all of this, it's preparing the world, the culture, to make bestiality acceptable. No, it's not going to be acceptable. That's what they used to say 50 years ago about homosexuality. But have you noticed right now, it is legal for you to make your cat an heir of your estate, a dog an heir. And now they are members of the family. Members of the family. By the way, look at the Bible. Family members of the human family are not animals. But now, they are members of the family. And it's acceptable. Oh, my dog. And you see these people kissing their dog. What in the world is that? You cannot even kiss your wife and you're kissing your dog. It's acceptable now. It's beginning to be acceptable. I mean, just DJ is laughing because she's taking care of these kids. And in house sitting, the family has a dog, and she said the favorite of the dog is James, not her. Because James allows the dog to sleep on the same bed with him. Because there's a sleeping crate for the dog, and maybe because James is soft-hearted, when the dog look at him with flickering eyes, his heart melted. Okay, dog, come here, you know. Well, what's happening? You make it a member of the family. And by the way, there's the generation that got involved. The biologists classified us with the animal kingdom. We are not animals. We are humans. But now, you make man part of the animal kingdom. We're on the same level as dogs. They are all animals. You see, this is mental conditioning. And again, I'll push forward. The world is being prepared for the coming of the Antichrist, while blinding the world to the reality that Jesus is coming back again. Now, predominantly, the second coming of the Lord is a myth. It's a fiction now. Even some Christians don't believe it anymore. So, we already learned that Cyrus was the first of the Persian kings to rule following the defeat of the Babylonians. And we mentioned when we were studying that portion that practically Cyrus walked in unopposed. And you know that writing on the wall, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Uparsin, that's when it took place, okay? The three kings mentioned in what we read are the successors of Cyrus. Maybe I'll just read to you their names. I don't know these people, you know. I'm not that old. But we read them again in history. The Cambyses is one. Darius, we heard that is another one. But the fourth one, now you know this because it's in the Bible. The fourth one is Xerxes. Okay. Xerxes the first. What is the other name of Xerxes? Ahasuerus. Now, where did we read of Xerxes or Ahasuerus? Esther. Now, let's make this because in Sunday school we are told that they're having some party, and Queen Vashti was called, and hey, show yourself. Now, we understand that Queen Vashti was a noble woman. When Xerxes said, come, show yourself before the nobles, he gathered all the nobles of the Persian kingdoms. Come, show yourself before the nobles. What it means is he wants his beautiful wife to come and practically be naked in front of everybody. Why? Show. Maybe you can dance. Maybe you can please everybody. Because if the most beautiful person, Queen Vashti, shows up before these nobles, be humiliated because she is a woman. Be humiliated. Oh, these lustful men can look at her and say, wow, she is very beautiful, oh King Xerxes. And then Xerxes will say, by the way, I have an agenda in calling you guys. Nobody will vote it down. And the bait is Vashti. Vashti is a wise woman. She said, I'm not going to be a toy that will be played by men. So she stood her ground. She was deposed as queen. Who replaced her? Esther. And Esther, fast forward, saved the nation of Israel. But notice, remember in Esther, God was not mentioned. Who was Esther supposed to replace? Vashti, of course. She was the queen deposed, right? What did Vashti refuse to do? Be a toy. Now, can you imagine Esther? That's what she's replacing. So for her to refuse to be a toy, the same fate can happen to her. And we know that she did not become a toy. In fact, she wielded the kingdom. Why in the world will Xerxes gather, this is where you put this in context of history. Why in the world will Xerxes gather all the nobles of, the nobles of what? Of Persia, and have her wife dance practically naked? What is he trying to accomplish? Persia. What is he trying to accomplish? Come on, think with me. What is, for a king to gather all his nobles, the rich people, the influential politicians, the owner of feudal armies, okay, the generals, why is he gathering them? What is he trying to do? Now, it is kingdom, right? But he's trying to form an alliance. Alliance is formed for what reason? War. War against what? Come on. War against what? Well, he's preparing Persia to invade. I already mentioned this. Greece. This is the context of Esther. He is preparing to invade Greece. There is a rebellion in Babylonia. All of these are taking place. And you have a king who wants to master resources. That's why there is a feast in Esther chapter 1. That's the context of that. And in the middle of that conflict, whom did God put? Esther. That's our call. You see, that's why maturity is necessary for us. You put a child in the middle of conflict. What happens to the child? Becomes a toy. Now, was Esther a very mature person? No. So what happened when Mordecai told him the news of the possible annihilation of the Jews? What did she say? She said, no. That's what she said. She told her uncle, no. And her uncle says, what, you think you'll be exempted? You think because you're a queen now, you'll be able to hide your Jewishness? Know this. If you don't do your part, help will come from afar. That is as closest as you can get about going around the name of God. Mordecai is the man of faith, not Esther. And Esther was actually following the leadership of Mordecai. And this is what I was telling you this morning. One of the biggest mistakes in the Western civilization is when their children reach the age of 18 and they say, you don't need our supervision. That is when our kids need more supervision. Now this Esther girl, she cannot make her own decision. She was scared. That's why she called for fasting. Yeah. At least Mordecai was able to plant some values in her life. But again, in Esther, the name of God was not mentioned. Yes, we see the grace of God in Esther, but God's name was not mentioned. Why is that? Because what you have is a remnant. And I told you, remnant is glorified, but actually remnant are weak people. Still believe, but they are weak. That's why I always tell you, for years now, I am not in the wilderness. I am not a remnant either. Because a remnant is hiding, hidden, while Elijah is almost losing his life all the time. We want to become an Elijah generation, not a remnant generation. But there will always be remnant. And by the way, there's a lot of remnant Christians today. Yeah, they're believers, but they're very scared. They're hiding. But God is supporting them. God is providing for them because peradventure, perhaps one day, they will strengthen their bones and have the courage to be bold and live their faith. And that's the grace of God, you see. So now, we know why Xerxes organized this party. He was steering everyone against the kingdom of Greece, and he lays a plan before them for a large-scale invasion. What did the nobles say? Yes! Because the king showed his strength, even deposing Vashti, who stood for him. So we know what happened. They failed. The movie, who's that guy? I forgot his name, but 300, right? They put together, remember there's a scene there wherein this king was looking at the sea. Leonidas was looking at the sea, and the naval forces of Persia was demolished. That's actually a separate story, okay? There's a big defeat in Salamis. And then, of course, they were defeated also afterwards because of the 300. However, they were able to for a short period of time take over Athens, okay? And they burned Athens. And when they burned Athens, they destroyed the famous building there. What's the famous building in Athens? Parthenon. You know that, but you did not answer, okay? So Parthenon, it's still, John and I saw it. They're still trying to fix it, but they destroyed the Parthenon. Man, it broke the heart of the Greeks, okay? And so one of the kings who was campaigning against the Persian was the king of Macedon. What is his name? Philip. He died. Who was his son? Alexander the Great. You see, now this timeline. That's why Alexander the Great hates the Persians. You see, we tied it up from the conflict that even began between armies of ages, Babylon, Persians, and then the Greeks. And then, of course, after this, it continued to descend until, of course, later on we will find the Seleucids. We will find who's this guy? Antiochus. Okay, which basically was stopped because of the Romans. Okay, now you push forward. I'm just mixing it all up. Okay, so when the, because I don't want to, I have this to hear the dates, but I don't know if you're interested. Just read some history books. Okay, I'm just trying to show you how it ended up to be what it is. Okay, so one of the Antiochus was attacking, I think the second or the third. In fact, marriages were even mixed. They were attacking, and the pressure from the north and the south. Judah was always in between, and there's a little portion there, little lower Phoenicia, lower Syria, south of Syria, and it involved Judah. It became part of the Seleucids, okay, from the north. And so what happened was Antiochus started getting angry with Judah and began to desecrate the kingdom. And they went to the south, attacked Egypt, and was winning, but never really won, because now Rome was beginning to gain power. Rome was dealing with some rebellions, but finally Rome overcame those rebellions. And so now when Antiochus was making a move on the south, this is when that famous emissary was sent by Rome, and Antiochus was going to attack. And there was a meeting between the ambassador of Rome and Antiochus IV. And remember, for a long time there was a war, and so war means depletion of resources, more taxes, and oppression to the people. Rome was conquering territories. It's a iron clay combination. Remember, I have already taught this, I think, in Daniel earlier chapter, but not chapter 11. I think maybe chapter 7 or chapter 8. Forgot. But go back to your outlines. Go back to YouTube, and you will see it. But what happened was, now Rome is free. So they met with Antiochus. There was a very proud person. And Rome basically says, you leave. Don't touch Egypt. And Antiochus said, knowing that he will not win against Rome, how much time do I have to consider this? That's how a defeated king will try to buy time to show that, well, I'm considering this, although they know they're different. How much time do I have? The ambassador, I like what he did because he's got the force of Rome behind him. So they were standing in the field, and Antiochus says, how much time do I have? The ambassador took a piece of his stick. Stand up, DJ. This is what happened. So they were talking. He took a piece of stick and drew a line around Antiochus. Went like this. And then look at Antiochus and said, you can't leave the line and not make a decision. That's what he said. You can't leave the line, the circle that he drew. You can't leave that line and not make a decision. And Antiochus, knowing he was defeated, he said, okay, I'm backing off. So he took his army, and you sit down now. He took his army. Now you are very angry. You are humiliated. Where will you back off? Where will you retreat? Are you going to swim across the Mediterranean Sea with hundreds of thousands of your armies? Some people say only 10,000, but I don't know how many. I wasn't there. But where will you withdraw? You're coming from Egypt. Look at your maps. Imagine the maps. Remember the map that John showed? some time ago. Where will you withdraw? There's only one place to withdraw. Where? The coastline. What will you encounter? Judah. You are an angry, defeated king. You need to vent your anger. To whom did he vent his anger? To Judah. Second round of desecration. I mean, that is when Antiochus says, I'll do the following things. I'll worship the gods that I worship. Put image there. I mean, he ransacked the whole thing. And if you are a Jew and you're observing the law, he will kill you. He will promote those who desecrate the temple because he is just angry. Now, don't answer this. How many of you are so angry at somebody that you are looking for somebody that you think is weaker than you, and you vent your anger on them? You know, that's what happened. Yeah. Now, this is danger. You know why in the scriptures? I just basically took 10 notes of my notes, 10 pages of my notes, and just summarized it in that little time. Because even me, I'm bored with what I wrote, you know. But I have to teach you this, so you will not be lost in the translation, you know. What happens, for example, let's put it this way. In leadership, one of the qualifications that Paul put is this: you must be able to manage your own household. Now, some people say, well, you manage your own household because if you cannot manage the finances of the house, you cannot manage. That's elementary. There's something more to it, deeper than that. Say, I can't manage my house. Okay? I'm supposedly the head of the house, but when my wife barks, I became like a little puppy dog. Don't touch me, you know. Well, that will build inside. Here you are, a man with a title, head of the house. Your kids don't listen to you. Your wife don't listen to you. And basically you have no control over anything. I have to release that. I can't manage my house. I have to release that. You make that person a leader in the church. What does he do? He vents it out on the church. And what he does is come to the church where love is preached and vent out his anger. That's what happens when deacons begin to try to run the church. They don't know how to run their household. There is this anger inside. They cannot exercise leadership outside their house. Now they want to exercise somewhere else. That is the real thing. You cannot put leaders like that. You can't allow an Antiochus, after being humiliated in Egypt, to pass through Judea. He will vent out his anger. That's what happened to our politicians. They are hiding under the skirt of their wives, and so they vent it on the American people. I mean, you watch their families. They cannot run their kids. They cannot lead their kids. They have a messed up family. They have multiple marriages. What happened? They come to Congress. They show power. We are powerful. No, you're not. You're as weak as a puppy. But you are given leadership when you are most unqualified. But you find a secure leader who can manage his house. He doesn't do that. He doesn't do that because he's got the maturity. You see? The guy has a big mouth. But I challenge you. Show me any scandal in the Trump family. He was able to raise his kids well. His kids are successful business people. Now, the guy has big mouth. But talk about his family. Of all the things that's happening, the news is feasting on Biden's kids, Clinton kids, even Obama kids. I mean, I pity those daughters of Obama. They have nothing to do with any of this. But they find something. Bush kids. What about Trump kids? That's why there is a certain sense of security that Trump has that I have not seen in decades among leaders. The guy has a mature leadership that most Americans overlooked. Why? Because he's a billionaire. He doesn't need American money. He doesn't. How many presidents do you not receive their salary? Before becoming president, he even offered to repair the White House and the residence. He said, I'll pay it with my own money. That is how secure that guy is. You know? Oh, we cannot handle that. You see? You apply all of this. That's why the world is in chaos. And you know who's feasting on that? The devil. Why is it that the devil hates Israel and the church? Tell me. Tell me. Why? Why? You know, I just told you the answer. Come on, why? Exactly. He thought, I'm going to put my seat with the Almighty. He was just totally humiliated before the universe. He is venting his anger on the apple of God's eyes. You see that? That's all it is. He is defeated. He is venting his anger in the apple of God's eyes. Now you go back to the qualification of leaders. You don't put immature leaders because of conceit can fall prey on the traps of the devil. That's the trap of the devil. You see, you put these scriptures together, it's easy to understand why there are certain qualifications made. You see, that's why you find these bully leaders, they cannot control their houses. Well, they invent it. You get a boss in your company who's always very angry with the employees, even though he's least qualified. You visit his house. Probably it's in disarray. Oh, but you find secure men who knows how to run their house. I mean, I have met a few of them. They even make fun of themselves. Listen to Copeland's in charge of his family. He lost control over some areas, but he's in charge in his own way. He is one of those people that will say, well, you know, the most beautiful thing that happened to my life is my wife. And he will elevate his wife. But you look at his relationship with his wife. What's the name of his wife? Gloria. Gloria knows her place. Look at Pat Robertson, the same thing. Dee Dee Robertson knows her place. These are secure people who knows how to run their house. And so when they exercise leadership, but you put men and women who doesn't have control over their house, put them in leadership in the church, there is going to be chaos. Because you have an Antiochus who was just humiliated by Rome, and now he's going to vent his anger on this little place who is decimated by wars for 100 years. Is called Judah. That's the synopsis, okay? Now, running out of time. By the way, I mentioned to you the four generals, like Lysimachus, Cassander, Seleucus, and Ptolemy. I concentrated on Seleucus and Ptolemy. He has more generals. There's another general called Antigonus. He's a satrap under Alexander, but he was a very powerful one. He believed that he is supposed to take over the kingdom of Greece, take over Alexander. Name is Antigonus, okay? So what he did was he began to claim authority over the areas that Lysimachus and Cassander occupy, and then he even tried to go in the territory of the Ptolemies and Seleucus and all of these things. Well, they begin to have an alliance. These are enemies. They begin to have an alliance. Cassander, Lysimachus, Ptolemy, they begin to have an alliance and say, let's fight Antigonus. So Antigonus, of course, failed, but he was able to get some properties, and the properties that he took is what I was just mentioning earlier, south of Syria, Phoenicia, and then part of Israel. In history, it's called Syria and Phoenicia, or Coeli Syria. That's how they call it. And he fought, of course, Seleucus of the north. And all of this war take place for so many years. And finally, after so many years, Antigonus was defeated. Let's just cut it short. He was defeated, okay? And Seleucus now, again, Seleucus, king of the north, received the bulk of Antigonus' land, which involved Phoenicia, southern Syria, and Judah. He received that bulk. And so because, now you have to remember the location of Israel, the way God put it. You have Asia Minor, you have Syria, Damascus, you have Israel, you have Egypt, right? This is called the land between, as I said. You control the land between. You are the most powerful country on earth. By the way, that's why God put Israel there, because if Israel will continue to put her faith in God, Israel is supposed to be the most powerful little country on the face of the earth. Because traders from Babylon, traders from Persia, traders from the north, traders from the west will come down here. They bring camels, they bring ships, they bring all kinds of caravans and merchants. What do they need? Food, hotels, car wash. Well, we call it camel wash, yeah. Where will they, and from Egypt, right? Oh, my goodness. Can you imagine if you have Indians coming far? Oh, they need swimming pool. And that's why it has to be blessed with water. If you are hungry and dirty, a hotel room can cost you an arm and a leg, and you will pay. You will pay. So now, that is what God gave. They could be the most influential and the most powerful nation on earth. But they have to put their faith in God. Because if not, they will be conquered by any of this. And they were conquered by Babylon, by Medo-Persians, by the Greeks, and by Rome. Why? Because they did not put their faith in God. Same thing with us, Christians. What is the group of people on earth that has the potential of affecting the world, other than the Chinese and maybe the Indians? The Christians. Don't say the Filipinos, okay? The Christians. We are all over the earth. I mean, we're just all over the earth. But if we don't put our faith in God, what happened? We are conquered instead of conquering. We are more than conquerors that is conquered. That is the place of the church. In the middle, the land between. In the middle of conflict. And there is one condition. Love the Lord your God. Obey my commands. It will be well with you. If you are willing and obedient, you will enjoy, look at this, you will enjoy the fruit of the land. People say, well, the fruit of the land is grapes, and you can buy grapes. I mean, you can buy at 7-Eleven if you want, you know. That is not it. You will enjoy the fruit of the land. What is the fruit of the land, guys? I just showed you the land. What is the fruit of the land? What is the fruit of the land? Honey. You can buy it from Whole Foods, you know. What is the fruit of the land? The wealth of the nations. That's where it is. That's why, remember I told you, where will we see the restoration of the wealth of Israel? In the millennial reign, when Jesus reigns there. The wealth of the nations will once again flow in Israel. It will be the wealthiest nation on earth. That's what it means. By the way, that's what you call as transference of wealth. Transference is wealth is not somebody giving you a title of their house, although it can happen. Transference of wealth is they are working so hard. Look at this. They polish their silver, they purify their gold, They make all of the best of their countries, and they are going to trade, right? Guess who benefits the most? The land between. Almost for nothing. You are very hungry, you are very dirty. And you say, I like that gold. And you say, okay, it's yours. It's transfer of wealth. Easy. You are very hungry, you are a millionaire, but you're in the middle of nowhere, and you have a stash of cash, and you are hungry, you are dying. And somebody has a little house and say, I want food. And he said, I want $10,000. And you look at your stomach, you pay $10,000 for a meal. You say, it's not going to happen. You say that because you're ignorant of the scriptures. You remember the guy by the name of Esau? He sold his birthright for a bowl of soup. How lousy is that? That's called transfer of wealth. You put yourself in a position to receive this because you have prepared yourself. Are you listening? Or I already lost you in the so many things that I said. Now let's apply this, okay? Let's try to make sense. If you will remember in Daniel chapter 8, a large horn, male goat, represents Alexander the Great. With his death came up the four conspicuous horns. And it says here in verse 9 that a small horn would come out of these four. That's Antiochus the fourth, who rose from the Seleucids, okay? Therefore, we can say that Daniel 11 shows how Antiochus' fourth reign was a product of struggle between the south and the north. From all of this struggle, they say this in history. If you are wise, the moment people are fighting, prepare yourself to receive whatever is left, and you can be the most powerful person. Yeah, you can be the most powerful person. Look at all of this conflict coming out right now in the Middle East, in Ukraine. Who is coming out to be very powerful? A third world country called Turkey. Because Erdogan has a knack for this. He knows how to position himself. Man, he got a lot of concession so that Finland and the other country will be accepted into the NATO. But he still blocked Ukraine. And while blocking Ukraine, providing Ukraine with this drone something, the guy is wise. If you are looking at a wise leader on all of this, you are looking at Erdogan. I mean, Turkey is poor. They will tell you that be careful with the pickpockets of Turkey, of Istanbul, Rome, and Egypt. Three countries, you have to be very careful with the thieves. Pickpockets, Istanbul, Egypt, and Rome. You see? Be careful. And yet Erdogan was able to place himself. That's called positioning. Okay? So now, what happened is, with all of this struggle, the prize, a big prize, will be the land of Judah. If you can control Judah, you can control the world. The same thing today. Why is China interested in Israel? Everything will pass through that. Look, Mediterranean Sea. After that, you go out, you're going to have the Black Sea. What happened if you have the Black Sea? That's where all of this, if you go to the Black Sea right now, you will see hundreds of ships passing through that. The taxes that is being levied on those merchants, okay? So, this makes Daniel 11 a very grim atmosphere because now the land is squeezed, and now you can tell why is it that Daniel was very sad. What is obviously lacking, though, in the lives of these leaders, the Ptolemies, the Seleucids, and all of those people, why are they doing this? They have no true peace. Let's simplify all of this. You know why there's so much unrest? We say, oh, that is a restless soul. Look, he's rich. He's restless. You know what happens when you say, oh, that soul is restless. Look, he's a genius. He's a millionaire. He's a billionaire. He's successful. Why is he restless? What do you mean by being restless? Without rest. Wow. Okay. What do you mean by when you're restless? who is the most restless person on the universe? Satan. How do you call it? Yeah. The, the, the flies. What's the name? What? Beelzebub. The Lord of the flies and in unceasing labor. When you are restless, what don't you have? Peace. Yes. A restless person have no peace. Have you looked at people and say, man, why don't you sit down? Relax for a moment. Just people have just no, and it includes Christians. Oh, I cannot relax. You know what you're saying? You can't relax. You have no peace. One of the things that my wife tells me, how can you just sit there and watch TV? Huh? My wife said, don't you feel mercy? Don't you pity me? I said, no. I said, I'm doing my part, you do your part. Everybody should do their part. You just have this sense of peace that comes from Jesus Christ. And he said that in John 13, verse 35, by this everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. Look, as believers, we are warned that we will suffer. But in the middle of suffering, we are also told we're going to have peace. Now, this is the thing about Christianity. When you put your faith in Jesus and you have a proper relationship with Him, there's just this peace. There's this assurance. I were loving each other from a distance because I was in the U.S. and she was in the Philippines. And I told you I injured my back. It will take me 5 minutes to stand up. And I was in a restaurant with the family that I'm staying with. And we're having lunch after church, 2 boys and 1 girl. And I take my food and sit there. And I saw her sister. And I saw her aunt from a different table, same restaurant. I was telling myself, shall I stand up or not? My back was in tremendous pain. I have no insurance. And so I told myself, I'm not going to hurt my back. So from a distance, I said, hi. By the way, gossips are gossips. They called Anna and say, your boyfriend has a different girl. And my wife got upset with me. She was still my fiance. Oh, no. Well, some men, they're so weak, they allow that to happen. I told Anne, she was still my girlfriend, I said, knock it off. I said, I'm in tremendous pain, I have no insurance. I said, knock it off. Either you trust me or you don't. That's the end of the conversation. Yeah, I'm not going to go into this nonsense. There were times my wife will be upset with me. I said, I will tell her, I'm not your brother. I'm a faithful man. Knock it off. I'll tell her that. That's the kind of assurance I have. I leave the house, be on missions, be somewhere else. I don't call my wife every day, who's with you? Whom did you have lunch with? I don't do that. My wife asked me, when we were not married yet, can I date with somebody? She asked me that question. How stupid was that question? I said, of course you can. I'll just kill you. That's what I told her. It's in the letter. I'll just kill you. And by the way, Ann, I don't need to be in the Philippines. I'll just kill you, I said. I don't need to deal with all of this nonsense. I have too much problem, I said. I said, either you believe me or you don't. When you have peace and you know how to love, there is that assurance that takes place. There is no unrest. I know how many people ask me this question, when are you going to get your building? I want the building in the Philippines, but I also, in a sense, who cares? My mission is not to have a building. It's part of the process. My mission is to teach, to train, not to have a building. It's very clear. But to accomplish that, there comes points in your life you need to, like when you get married, your goal is not to have a house. Your goal is to build a house. How many families do you know in the Philippines, they live all their lives living in an apartment? We have tons of them in the Philippines. They never own a house, but it's a family. The goal is not the house. The goal is to build a family. You have a house and you lost your family. What's the use? The goal is to build that family. That's called thinking right. You see? And I am thinking right. The goal is for me to train young ministers. One of the tools is to have a building. That building doesn't give me unrest. My wife keeps finding building, and I'll tell her, she found another one. So, boy, she said, sweetheart, this 36 something, I don't know, meters frontage. And Brother Robert went there and says, oh, Brother Robert says, if I have the money, I'll buy this. And he likes the building. And my wife says, what are you going to do, sweetheart? I said, go there and look at it. I'll send you to the Philippines. If it's good, and maybe I'll fly. I don't feel this pressure. I just don't feel that. Because my call is to train, to teach. I will have a building, but that is just a tool. Because I can buy the building today and lose it tomorrow, but not the ministry. I will never lose the ministry. Are you following me? That's where you get the peace, you see. Now, let's have communion, okay? I may go on a different topic. Praise God.